On the podcast today, we are going to speak about Zen Koans. So a Zen Koan, for those of you who don't know, is a riddle to test the practitioner's maturity or advancement on the path in spirituality and in Zen specifically. And Alan Watts once said that Zen and Zen Koans specifically looks like utter buffoonery practiced by buffoons from an outside perspective. So, because it is strange, right, when you first come across Zen Koans, and if you don't understand what they are and what they are supposed to facilitate, then they don't make any logical sense because it's beyond logic. And so koans are one of the main practices in Zen. And if we look at the two main schools of Zen, if we look at Rinzai and Soto Zen, Rinzai's main focus is koans, while Soto's main focus is just sitting, so Zazen. So, but then there's an alternation, that there's a belief that in some sense either the koans, going to the depth of a koan will benefit your sitting practice, or the depth of understanding a koan is accentuated by your sitting practice. You know what I mean? So it's an either or thing. And so this Zen riddles, we'll talk a lot of, we'll mention a lot of these Zen koans today. We'll go through them, and there's a variation of Zen koans. There's the Dharma body koans, there's the koans that teach through devices, there's the koans that clarify through words, and then there's also the koans that are difficult to pass. So we'll go through a lot of those, and we'll read some of those different koans to talk about, to go deep into these koans. And you and I have a pretty long history with koans. I remember a decade ago we're living up in Pokhara, reading The Way of Zen by Alan Watts and contemplating one of the Dharma body koans that we found in which Alan talks about in The Way of Zen, if you remember. So koans, they teach the authenticity of the practitioner's development in Zen. So it reveals their maturity and understanding of what Kun Yamada Roshi would call the essential world. So koans themselves arise from this essential world, what we would call Brahman or Tao, or what the Buddhists would call the void or the Dhammakaya. So these koans arise from that reality. They're not linked, well, they are linked somewhat to this world, the actual world, the phenomenal world, but they are from that essential world, as what Kun Yamada would say. And that's what they're trying to evoke in the practitioner, even in people who are listening today and you and I. It's the purpose of the koan is to thrust you into that essential world. So they arise from the essential world and they take you back to the essential world, you see.
It's almost like we are living in somewhat phenomenal world, right? But Zen koan is to ask the question. Through the question, a practitioner should be able to see the essential world through the phenomenal world.
Yes.
That is to say, what's underlying beneath to this physical world, right?
Yes.
And that's what I found it really interesting, going through some of the things that about koan, basically.
Yeah.
It's to see the essential world, but through the phenomenal world, to have come to understanding that the phenomenal world isn't untrue, but it is also part of essential world. But you need to have that kind of perspective to be able to see it that way.
It's untrue in the sense that if you live in a world of concepts and names and forms, right? Then if you're like naming and giving concepts to everything in the phenomenal world, that's kind of the hypnosis, because you're not seeing, like what you said, you're not kind of seeing the essential world in the phenomenal world. And that's what in Mahayana Buddhism they would call, samsara is nirvana, nirvana is samsara, right? So samsara, this world of duality where we're caught in this time loop, where nirvana is just the eternal now. It's like seeing the non-dual reality within duality, so to speak.
Yeah, in a phenomenal world, you can just see quite easily, right? Names and form and things like that, which we get to experience everyday life, right? But to be able to see what the underlies beneath that, it requires a lot of work, actually, right? Because you need to be able to lift your perspective in reality a little bit. So the Zen Buddhism is based on realism. That realism is the essential world. And yet practitioners always get challenged to be able to see that underneath the phenomenal world, right? And that's what Zen Koans are about. It's somewhat like, I thought it's kind of interesting in that you will have to have a somewhat logical and intellectual mind to be able to understand the Zen Koans, right? But to come up with the good answer to pass the koan is to be able to bring that answer in a very intuitive but also spontaneous way, right? That's why it's very tricky and very difficult, and it takes a lot of time to develop that perspective, from that perspective to be able to see the world that way, right? To meet the fine line, the perfect middle way between intuitive perspective and logical and intellectual perspective, right?
Yeah.
That's where I think you can come up with the perfect answer, but it also has to be spontaneous, right?
Yeah.
It's not an easy task at all.
Well, that's why what's called a buffoonery, because like from a logical perspective, when you read a koan, or some of the ones, especially the ones that are the so-called koans that are difficult to pass, you have no idea what they're really talking about on a certain level, and because it's kind of beyond logic, and so that's why it's more to do with the irrational sphere of the mind. And one of the problems within not just spiritual practitioners in general, but with people in general, is over-rationality. And so koans are supposed to thrust you back into that irrational world. The irrational world that apparently is not good for you and you should try to avoid, they're trying to get you back to that, because they're saying that there's something in the irrational sphere of the mind that is connected to the essential world. The rational world is a calculator calculating the phenomenal world, the actual world that we experience with our eyes, with our senses, right? And so we have to get sort of beyond that, in not just in Zen Buddhism, but in any spiritual path. You're supposed to try to get back to that irrational sphere of the mind, what we would call in cognitive sciences hot cognition, right? So you're trying to get back into that field of where things like wu-wei and effortlessness and all of that all arises from. And like you said, you're trying to act immediate but also appropriate to the situation. That's the height of actual Zen practice, right? Is when you begin koan practice, you start to act spontaneously, but a lot of the time you may not be appropriate to whatever the master or the teacher is asking of you. And so that's at that next level, when you start to act appropriately to whatever situation it is. And that they translate over into life skills that you take out of the monastery, and that's how you behave in general. So when there's a situation, then you begin to act appropriately and immediately to each and every situation.
Something that we need to really look at about being intellectual and rational is that when we rationalize things, we usually get trapped into over-rationalizing things, right? Overthinking, overanalyzing, all these things. Then Ellen Watts once said that people like to worry about a lot of things, which is usually come from the memory and their past experience, right? The past memory and the emotional state that they experienced in the past from that experience, right? So that worry about things that actually not necessary most of the worries, right, in our daily life. So that, like, how much you can over-rationalize is that you get to stage where you think of things that, like, and then you go like, you are worried about that. In fact, there is nothing to worry about. You get to that level of over-rationalizing. So when you get to that level, like, you will completely get blind by what's really happening around you, right? Your immediate reality. And I think Zen practice is all about to get you to see what's really happening around you. For example, when sun comes up, the sunlight is going through you. These simple things, but you need to be able to see that. You need to be able to feel that your immediate reality at all times, without get caught into like petty little things in your own mind, right? And that's actually pretty challenging.
100%. 100%. And that's what they're supposed to facilitate, right? To get you out of that, even like what you said, we worry when we don't have anything to worry about. That's a social habit, right? Like we feel like we ought to be over busy. We feel like we ought to have a lot of things to pick up and have our mind to mull on and to marinate and ruminate on. When in the end, Zen, especially Zen, is saying drop it all and don't give the mind any toys or tools to pick up and play with. It's okay to just reside in the essential world. The operation of the koan is to get you back into the field of the essential world and abide in that essential world. That's what it's trying to do, because that essential world is within all of us. Call it, the Atman or whatever, if we translate over into other languages. But the difference, we could say, from, say, if we talk about Vedanta or yoga or Sankhya, they would give you a mantra, right? So the mantra keeps you fixated on Brahman. So it keeps you trying to bring your mind back to Brahman, this and that. Where Zen is not opposite, but different in the sense that the koan is there to just riddle the rational mind and the intellectual mind out of an understanding of what it thinks. Because we're constantly in this habit of believing that we can come up with logical conclusions for everything. There must be a logical conclusion for this. And Zen would ask, what's the logical conclusion of a sunset? What's the logical conclusion of a bee pollinating? What is the logical conclusion of these things in nature? And this ties back to its essentially its Taoist roots, because Zen is kind of an outgrowth of Mahayana and Taoism, Chan Buddhism, like in China. And so you're trying to constantly get out of this logical conclusion. And that's a bad habit we all have, right? There must be a reason, like, what's one of the most famous sayings in the world? What's the meaning of life? There is no meaning of life, because you're trying to give a logical conclusion of something which is beyond logic. There is no meaning. Life itself has meaning to the point that you give it meaning.
That's right.
But life itself has zero meaning because it's beyond logical conclusion.
Yeah, that's the thing that how I reacted towards koan when I heard the first time. Instantly, you try to give an answer in a very logical way. Yes. Why? Because that's what you have been thinking. That's how you have been thinking. It's just a habitual way of thinking, right? So, but then you come up with an answer, but that doesn't seem right, doesn't fit right. Yeah, it's just definitely more to do with your immediate reality, and you have to allow yourself to be able to see clearly what's really going on around you, instead of you are trying to filtering through your own mind.
Well, that's the development of the practitioner in Zen. See, when you are given a koan, if you're picking it up, if your mind is in the habit of picking it up and trying to figure it out intellectually, you're still at a very low level of understanding. So the development of going through the Zen koans is not that habit of picking it up. But that's a transformation of the mind. See, that's a mind that's residing more in the essential world. And so when it hears the koan or it reads the koan, he or she, it essentially is brought back to the essential world. It understands the koan. The koan is to facilitate the essential world. It's to understand that world. And there's not an intellectual understanding. As you know, we'll go through some of these koans, but there's not an intellectual understanding. There are, in a sense, like I mentioned, some of the different koan styles. Like if we look at the clarify with words, in a sense, you can see that there's some sort of, you can understand it better than, for example, if you listen to a Dharma body koan or a koan that is difficult to pass. Koan with devices and koans with the that clarify with words, they're easy to understand in some sense, but the other two are very difficult, and so we'll get into a lot of those in a minute. But yeah, that's something for people to think about, is that if you're picking up the koan, you're trying to give it to your mind in the sense that we can work this out like we can work out a mathematical equation, you're already at in some sense a low level of spiritual development.
The thing is, when you hear the Zen Koan first time around, right, what we instantly think first, before even try to answer it, is that what would be the right answer? Because in our education, we ought to come up with the right answer to solve the problems, right? And from doing so, you get the good grade, right? So we are so accustomed to that way of thinking. So when you get the question, instantly you think, what would be the right answer to this? But that itself is already fraud, I think, because there is no right or wrong answer to the Zen Koans.
No.
You come up with something that is appropriate but spontaneous in the immediate moment. So that you should not think of what would be the right answer. That itself is already, you ruined the test pretty much, right?
Exactly. And that's a good point, because if we look at the farmer and son story, what's essential about the farmer and son story in Zen, where we'll see the farmer has infinite patience. And so that's what you have to also have with the koan. So if you get the koan and you're sitting there and you got the pen and paper out and you're trying to work it out and this and that, you're already, like you said, you already failed.
Yeah.
Because you're not being patient with the koan. You're not letting the koan do its work on the inside.
You are kind of handicapped to feel the question,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Instead of trying to intellectually thinking about the question.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And that's what Zen specifically is trying to get you out of, that intellectualizing of a question or of a riddle or of a puzzle. It's trying to get you out of all of it. It doesn't matter. Any situation is trying to get you out of intellectualizing, because it's trying to get you back in the essential world where all spontaneity and all life arises from. So it wants to get you back there, get your mind back transfixed into that reality. So then you are like a limb of the universe. You know, in Hinduism they say a limb of Shiva, or in Taoism they'd say you're an aperture for the universe. They're trying to get you back to that realm where you are not handicapped by intellectualizing, over rationality, overthinking and overanalyzing in general.
And you need to be able to fully embody that state of mind, isn't it?
Yes.
Through your body, through your mind.
Yes.
To be able to be in that intuitive but appropriate state of mind.
Exactly. So we'll start going through some of the koans now. We'll begin with the Dharma body koans. And for those who are not familiar with that sort of terminology, Dharma body is kind of like the Atman in Vedanta, or actually you could translate that as Buddha nature, suchness, tathata in Buddhist philosophy. So it's basically our essential nature when we talk about Dharma body koans. So why they are called Dharma body koans is because they're supposed to thrust you back into the Dharma body. They're supposed to
So that's one kind of Zen coin?
There's one kind of Zen
Right.
coin, yeah. There's many kinds of Zen coins, as I said. We'll go through some of the more popular styles, like I said, where we've got the Dharma body koans, we got the koans that teach through devices, we got the koans that clarify through words, and the koans that are difficult to pass. There's other variations, but we're getting too technical if we go into that realm. So we'll keep it simple so people can kind of understand. But so when we talk about the Dharma body koans, I've got 3 specifically here that we'll check out. And actually, you're familiar with a lot of these ones. So, as you know, Joshu is very popular in Zen history and the lineage of Zen. And so these are 3 Dharma body koans. Actually, I'll read 4 here. So the first one, a monk asked Joshu in all earnestness, does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Joshu said, mu. Mu means no. Hakuin said, this is a second Zen koan, Hakuin said, we know the sound of 2 hands clapping. What is the sound of 1 hand? Now, there's different translations of that. Some people say 1 hand clapping, but actually... But the proper translation probably should be, what is the sound of 1 hand, not 1 hand clapping. And then the next one. A monk asked Tozan. Tozan is Tungshan Chochu, for those in Chinese. A monk asked Tozan in all earnestness, what is Buddha? Tozan replied, 3 pounds of flax. That's one we were talking about out of Alan Watts's The Way of Zen.
I think that's one of the very well-known ones.
Yes, I've mentioned it in most of my books, actually.
Yes, yes.
And then the last one, Tai Bai asked Baso in all earnestness, what is Buddha? Baso replied, the very mind is Buddha. So, first of all, like the first one, when Joshu's when he's asked by the monk, does a dog have Buddha nature? And he says no. So, I guess when you try to figure that out, well, first of all, the monk is asking Joshu about something that should be immediate and should be an understanding. It's not essentially that the dog really has no Buddha nature. He's trying to get him out of the over-analyzing about who...
That's what's testing
them.
With this question, I
yes,
think.
Yes,
like, you would think that everything is part of nature, so that the dog must have Buddha nature. This is, see, already intellectualizing and you're thinking, rationalizing it, right? Then you say, the answer is yes. It's like just like a bloody, the question, and to answer the question of in an exam or something.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And Joshu's not very politically correct, obviously.
Yeah, because it's got to be spontaneous.
It's got to be spontaneous,
right?
and it's got to hit you. And it's got to hit you at a level that takes you.
That's right.
Takes you out of that mind.
Yeah, it's got to be spontaneous, but intuitive, and it has to be appropriate as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Joshu's he's just functioning from that spontaneous nature, and so he's just given spontaneous response. But it's appropriate to what the monk requires, because the monk is too caught up in, like you said, like we can all sit around and wax lyrical about all beings have the Atman and all beings are part of Buddha nature, and we can wax lyrical, and he just comes along and goes, no.
I think you would get scolded if you were to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like almost like the master would say, oh, so you know all this, this type of thing. Yeah.
Definitely, well, Eastern spirituality and philosophy in general is not a place for political correctness or social justice warriors or any of that. It's about the truth, people.
Yes.
And Hakuin's one, interesting, right? We know the sound of 2 hands clapping. What is the sound of 1 hand? Instantly when you hear that, if you're at a good... You're sitting around. I think I can hear it. And it's like, no, you're missing the point. Like, because instantly if you're at a deep level of understanding, when you hear that should thrust you into the essential world, because You know, for example, the sound of two hands clapping. We all know that. Yeah. But what's the sound of one hand? Instantly, when you let the koan work and you just allow it to do its thing, it takes you out of rationality.
That's right, because the question itself is quite stupid, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say stupid. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't
right?
make sense, yeah.
Because that's not clapping,
No,
right?
no.
But yeah, that's the whole motive of this question, to get you out of that mindset.
Yes. Some of the translations used to say, "What's the sound of one hand clapping?" And you had some clever people going, it's like this. But actually, the proper translation is, "What's the sound of one hand?"
One hand.
Because two hands on the when they have friction and they hit, they make sound. One hand on its own without anything, what sound does it make?
No sound.
Yeah,
Nothing.
instantly a gong should go off in your head.
nothing.
You know what I mean? So, and one of the ones that you and I have the longest history with is Tozan's one, or Tungshan Chochu. What is Buddha? 3 pounds of flax. And there was a lot of conjecture, and a lot of people in Zen would say, "Oh yeah, but Tozan he was weighing flax at that point in time, and he was trying to just exhibit spontaneity in that moment." But further study of the koan is talks about just the complete irrationality of the answer, because it's one of the more irrational ones that there are, because you're asking what is Buddha, and the master's answer is 3 pounds of flax. So if you're thinking around, man, we should be eating that stuff ASAP, because that's
if you take it literally.
Yeah, if you take it literally, that's got Buddhahood. We better eat that ASAP. So, so that's one of the more irrational koans, but it's one of the most effective. And actually, the sound of one hand and also the 3 pounds of flax one are the two of the first koans you receive in Zen, but also they're the ones that later on they're the ones that kind of sit with you for your whole development within Zen practice. And so, the monk at that time, if we look at that story, say if it was a real story, apart from just being a koan, they were saying the monk at that time thought that the teacher was just being a damn fool, and thought Tozan was just trying to exhibit just spontaneity from an activity he was doing. Maybe he was weighing flax, as I mentioned, but it's about getting you back into the complete irrationality of the answer. The irrational response is supposed to drive you out of your mind.
The reason why I think this question, what is Buddha, is so tricky for practitioners, that when you get questioned with something like that, you instantly would try to come up with a good answer. Why? Because you are practicing Buddhism, right? So that is the kind of ultimate question that you carry forever, right? As a Zen Buddhist practitioner. So that when you get questions like that, you'd be instantly thinking, "Oh, I gotta get this right." It will get you a little bit nervous, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think that is why, like you said, this specific question carries you over a long time of Zen practice and progress, I think.
Yes, definitely. And the last one is the same question: what is Buddha, right? And then Baso replies, "The very mind is Buddha." And so instantly, when you're given that koan, what's your initial response when you hear that? You start to, how do I say? You kind of feel your mind, but you feel it in the sense not like in an intellectual level. You're kind of feeling your whole encompassed awareness, in a sense, like your pure awareness. Because when someone says, "What is the Buddha?" and the very mind is the Buddha, you're instantly stopped, because and this is the beauty of the koan, because we've mentioned many times, it gets you out of intellectualizing, but it also gets you out of conceptualizing. having concepts of what the Buddha is, what Buddha nature is, what is Bud, what is pure awareness. It gets you out of this kind of the feedback loop that we constantly are in, especially when we're learning the philosophy of spiritual practices. Not saying you shouldn't learn those, but the problem is when we over-conceptualize, this is where the problems happen. And that's why koans usually are for those who have, in some sense, have deepened their practice in meditation. Koans are for that. Like, say, what you and I are basically talking about today is we're giving people kind of the inside dope on what would happen if they were going further in their meditation practice.
It's very tricky because, like you say, you need to understand the conceptual side of it. But also, you need to elevate your perspective and insight to be able to get out of the concept, but to stay on track.
Stay on track, yes.
It's very tricky. That's why, as I mentioned earlier, it's almost like you need to have an intellectual understanding, but you also need to have an intuitive mind to get out of that conceptual mind, but to also be able to see everything else also makes sense as well.
Yes.
And that is whole purpose of koan, right? Like, and the answer was the very mind of
the very mind is Buddha.
Is Buddha, yeah, that's right. But someone would say the mind is mind is always changing something. Again, that's over intellectualizing, right?
Yeah.
But again, like you said, in that moment, the Baso felt through his own mind from getting that question, then he came up with the answer, which is appropriate answer for that moment of what was happening within himself, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if we were to give any sort of logical understanding to that, we could say that Baso is expressing the actual nature of mind. And the actual nature of mind from a Buddhist perspective, and this translates over into Hinduism, Taoism as well, is that the mind is empty, spontaneous, and free. That's its nature. It doesn't mean it doesn't conceptualize, it doesn't think, it doesn't intellectualize. It does that also as well. But they are not its nature. Its nature is empty, spontaneous, and free. That's its so-called irrational nature. That's the connection with the reality of the essential world, is that empty, spontaneous, and free reality.
Yeah, again, that's you get to see phenomenal world, but also you should be able to see essential world, which includes the phenomenal world. Yeah, and which is that nature.
Yeah, of course.
Nature.
From that place, there's no distinction actually between essential and it's kind of a commingled reality, because you're actually seeing it from the empty, spontaneous, and free place, and so everything is, well, from that perspective, shanti. You know what I mean? Everything is peaceful. Everything is actually, in some sense, non-dual and one. And so that's the reality from that place. And so I was going to say something, but I forgot what it actually was to elaborate on what you were saying. But anyway, I may think of it later. But there's, so that's, again, those are the Dharma body koans, right? Those ones to try and get you out of rationalizing, intellectualizing. They're all doing that, actually.
Again, it's like you said, Dhamma body was Atman, Brahman, so that the question is, something related to that. So
in Buddhism, you would say the suchness, like that's that the tatata, that suchness, like that, the thusness, that reality that we're trying to constantly get back to in practice, in our spiritual path. And so, koans are facilitating that. And so we'll move on to the next style of koan, which is one of my favorite ones, the koan using devices. And devices means like using something as a device to awaken. someone's reality. So one of the more famous ones was a koan involving Obaku, Zen master. And it's a question was posed to Obaku: what is the fundamental truth of Buddhism? Obaku gave him 60 blows.
It's
So
just like, whoo,
yeah.
like,
yeah. But do you see the use of the device to shock the monk? Bang, 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 bang. You're asking what is the You're asking what is the truth of Buddhism. I'm going to give you 60 blows. Did you get it? So
that device is to
get you into the essential world. That's what the device is for.
So how does that work? So the master asks you a question.
No. The student asks the master the question. Obaku is the one giving 60 blows.
Student asking master a question.
Yeah, so it's a question in Rinzai was, what is the fundamental truth of Buddhism? And Obaku gave the disciple 60 blows. You know, they usually use the stick on the shoulders.
Yeah, and really loud.
Yeah. So do you see the use of a device to get you back into that essential world?
So disciple asked the question to the master.
Yeah.
And the master gave
What is the fundamental truth of Buddhism? The answer is 60. The answer is this. So see, this is why I said earlier, you can understand, and we'll get to the clarifying with words next, but like the device one and the clarifying with words, you can kind of understand them a little bit more than the dumb body.
That's like mind blowing.
Yeah.
I like that.
You like that,
Yeah, I like that because it's so obvious question as a student. What is the fundamental truth of Buddhism?
Yeah.
And you want to hear that answer from your master as a Zen practitioner.
Yeah.
And then just
that's the answer.
But that's so true.
So true. Yeah.
Like,
because see, look, you're intellectualizing, right? You're
that's right.
So where do you need to go?
The master going like, just to wake the hell up.
Yeah, you wake the hell up. And what do those blows do? They bring you back to that reality.
Because it is like that. Like, I mean, I think we heard something like that from Alan Watts' talk, I think. When you practice Zazen, and I mean, we know this, and when the master see you a little bit like leaning this or that way, moving back and forth, and you just
yeah, of course. Yeah. We know that from Zen practice.
Yeah, just like get out of it.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Yeah. Because you're not just that you're dozing. Usually, when the body is moving around, it means you're kind of wandering with your mind as well. So you're out of that presence, or you're out of like the dharana, what the term in yoga, the heightened sense of concentration.
Yes.
You're out of that reality.
The other day I was listening to Alan Watts' talk, right? And he was talking about one of his friends who was very renowned Buddhist teacher who gives a lecture here now and then, back in the day. And then she came up in the lecture room and people sitting and they look around and like, why are you here? Why are you all here? And just yell it out, wake up!
Yeah.
Like just screaming.
Screaming,
right?
yeah.
And people like, that was kind of introduction of the lecture he was saying. Like, that is so Zen.
So Zen, yeah. It is.
It's really,
because you're trying to you are trying to wake them up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's what that's actually a device.
Yeah.
You see, that's a teaching the koan through device. That's a device. You're trying to. It's not. It is kind of a riddle in a sense because you know, what are you doing here? And then you answer like, wake up, like,
Because people come up and listen to a lecture.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like with a pen and note and like really keen interest to learn something.
Yeah.
Again, thinking intellectually, but then teacher come up and just wake the hell up.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about a little before when I mentioned that, like that kind of conceptual framework that is required as kind of a scaffolding.
Yep.
But to realize the essential world, it's not. The problem is over theorizing and philosophizing and only just dwelling in that world. And so that's why people are turning up with a pen and paper, because they want to, and you should want to learn. You know, we got to be clear. You should want to learn because the concepts and the philosophy accentuate the understanding of the essential world, but they're not the essential world. That's still, it's still in the realm of the phenomenal world, in the world of duality. But like what Eastern philosophy and spirituality always recognize, we are humans and we are intelligent. So we need, our intellectual capacities need to be appeased. And if they're not, then sometimes the understandings of, say if you were thrust into the essential world but you had no conceptual scaffolding beforehand, you will slip back on the path because you don't kind of understand the experience that you're going through and at a deeper level. And that's kind of like what you and I are trying to do here with this podcast, is trying to give people a lot of the conceptual frameworks to develop their practice, because that's what we've learned for a long time. And so that's, you know, I'm going off of what we were just talking about, but that's what I remember, like it ties into sort of what you were talking about, is but again, the problem is as Lao Tzu would say, that's all well and good, but if you get stuck in the habit of over-learning and over-theorizing and conceptualizing, then that's going to inhibit your spiritual development.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Buddhist masters in history all said the same thing, that you can read all these sutras and heart sutras and diamond sutras, sutras after sutras, and
100%.
but none of them really matters in the end.
Yeah.
If you were to cling to those words, right?
Yes.
Eventually, you will be able to just burn it all and just walk away, but with fully understood kind of mind. Like,
and the person you're talking about, though, is the enlightened person, see? They can burn it all.
yeah.
So we need to clarify that, like, because in the end, you can do that. At the beginning, I mean, and we've seen this too, right? Where people will read someone, and someone may have said, "Oh, you don't need all these books, you don't need all these rituals and this and that," but they haven't done any practice and they haven't made any, you know, philosophical development or even spiritual development, and then they just end up being the same person they were before. So, what you're talking about is from the perspective of an enlightened person.
Yes.
When you get to that stage, when you reside in the essential world, according to Zen, you don't need all these rituals, and you don't need to actually pay homage to the Buddha anymore. You don't need to do all of this. You can just go about your business because you've there. You worked it out. The other stuff is related to the phenomenal world, you know.
Because the device comment just got me straight back into here.
Exactly.
Like
this, the present moment. Yeah.
6 what?
6 blows.
6 blows.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental truth of Buddhism. Got it. Got it. Definitely got it.
Yeah.
You cannot not get in it.
That's what I mean. See, those device ones, they work really, really well.
Yeah, because it gets you just snap right out of your own mind.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, just straight away.
Yeah.
Just
everything just falls away. Conceptualizing, theorizing, intellectualizing.
Yeah, none of that. It's all gone.
It's all gone.
Yeah. Instantly, it just evaporates.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Some other device ones which I'll talk about. There's 2 other ones. There's the koan where the teacher has a picture of water, so like a water jug.
Picture.
Picture, yeah. So not a pit.
Picture.
Picture, yeah. So let's just say a water jug, right? And it's sitting on the table. And there's 2 disciples there, and he asks the disciples, This is a water picture, but don't call it a water picture. The first, and so he's trying to evoke an immediate response out of both of them, right? And so the first guy, so that's the device, right? The water picture is the device. The first student goes, "Well, you can't call it a sandwich," and then And then the teacher goes, no, that's too intellectual. And then the other student just knocks the water jug over and walks away. And he's like, this is good.
He passed.
He passed, yeah, he passed mark. You see, so his immediate response was not to give even a verbal answer. He just knocked it over and just...
Because it's complete nonsense.
Complete
actually.
nonsense, yeah. Well, that's what the teacher's actually giving them. They're giving them complete nonsense and how they're going to respond to it. And so, in saying, you can't call it a sandwich, the student's thinking of...
Trying to get an answer from somewhere else.
Like, yeah.
To give an answer. Yeah.
And actually, when you ask that question by the teacher, there's actually no verbal answer you can give. So the response of just knocking the picture over is...
Just a spontaneous reaction.
Yeah, spontaneous reaction. Like, whatever, boom, gone, I'm out of here. It's stupid.
It's almost like a master wants like wild reaction from students.
Yes.
Not intellectualizing the question and how irrational they can be.
Yeah.
That's what they're fishing for.
That's what they're fishing for, yeah. Yeah. And in a spontaneous way. So if they are completely irrational in a spontaneous manner with some of these koans, because that koan specifically is not really an appropriate... Well, the appropriate answer is not to give an intellectual answer.
Yeah.
And so the first student didn't pass because it was, in a sense, intellectual. He had to think of that in a split second, and he came up with that. And the other one, which is famous, I've mentioned this in a couple of my books, and also in, I think, the Art of Effortless Living documentary, I mentioned it. The master asks the student, I need a representation of Zen tomorrow. So I need a device. So this is the other way. The teacher's not giving a device here. He's asking to receive a device. So
to present something.
So the student to present something. So as the story goes, the student goes to the master's room, he asks this, and then he walks away, and he's instantly thinking, like, how can I exhibit Zen to my teacher? Is already enlightened. Like, what the hell can I do? You know, and then,
how can I impress
him? Yeah. And so as he went home and he thought about it all night, and he's fretting, he couldn't get any sleep, and he's overthinking. And as he's going back to the master's room the next day, he sees a frog, which is a particular type of frog, a native frog in Japan. And he's like, perfect. And so when he gets there, the teacher says, okay, can you exhibit Zen to me? And he goes,
frog.
Yeah, and he's like, no, it's too intellectual, too contrived. The teacher already knows he's thinking too much about...
Too much effort,
and he's just overthinking. You know. So he had to put in a lot of thought to think that the frog is going to somehow...
That is right.
Is going to somehow impress the teacher. What would impress the teacher, we don't know in that situation. But the point of the story is that it's not so much the frog, it's more so the overthinking of trying to come up with a logical conclusion to the answer, to answer the master.
Yeah.
So, you know... So that's kind of like the representation of devices. Obviously, the first one with Abaku is kind of one of the more famous ones, the 6 blows. And as your reaction was, it's kind of one of the ones that have the more immediate effect. Yeah. You know, there's so many ones with devices that we could talk about, but that one specifically is one of the best ones. And so we'll move on to clarifying with words. Now, as I said, clarifying with words is similar to actually with devices, because you can actually see what they're doing with these ones. You know what I mean? So this is a really famous one actually, and it's from the Gateless Gate, and many people have probably heard this. And again, this is Joshu. You know, most of these involve Joshu. A monk asked Joshu in all earnestness, I have just entered this monastery. I beg you, master, please give me instructions. Joshu asked, have you eaten your rice and gruel yet? Yes, I have, answered the monk. Joshu said, then wash your bowls. The monk attained some realization. Other texts say the monk attained instant enlightenment, some realization. Some realization may be a bit more accurate. But you see where that one's going, right? Like, so he's asking for instructions, and he receives instructions. Immediate, spontaneous instructions in that moment. Did you eat? Yes. Wash your bowls. That's it. That's the instruction you need. It's not anything more than that. You see that the monk's looking for more. He's looking for a logical instruction or a logical understanding, but the simplicity is the answer. It's not the actual...
It is something that you would do.
Yeah.
Something without a question.
Without a question.
Without a question, you just do. You eat your breakfast and wash your bowl.
Exactly. And that's the point of clarifying with words. So you see, like, Joshu there is giving him a representation through words. Yep. So in that sense, that's kind of... He's giving an intellectual answer, though it may seem vague to... So if you give that koan to someone who's not advanced on the path, they may not get it. That's the instruction, like, wash your bowl, like... Yeah,
right. We'll take it as something you do anyway. So why is that a teaching?
Yeah, why is that a teaching?
That sort of reaction.
Yeah, we wash our bowl anyway.
Yeah. Why is that a teaching?
Yeah. You see? But he's giving the monk instructions.
That's almost like Lin Chi said, you're hungry, you eat, move your bowels. You're tired, lie down.
Yeah.
And that's path to enlightenment.
That's the Buddha way.
Yeah.
That's the simple path. It's not over-theorizing, over-conceptualizing, over-analyzing.
Yeah.
It's about that. So you see, the monk was hungry and thirsty for knowledge. Joshu just said, this is what you do here. The knowledge is in just the simple things. The knowledge, the way of the Buddha is in washing your bowl. It's not in over-analyzing, over-theorizing. But the essence of the koan is the response of Joshu should actually put you into that essential world.
Right.
So him saying, go wash your bowl. Instantly, the feeling, again, you should have upon reading that koan, it should put you back into that essential world.
That is so grounded.
Grounded,
Yeah, grounded and kind of simple mind.
Yeah. Because the essence is he's looking for instructions. He gave him instructions. If you understand that he gave the right instructions, then that puts you in that field. That's why in the koan it says he attained some sort of realization, or he attained enlightenment in some other translations. Because Joshu is exhibiting the immediate and spontaneous reality. That's all there is. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
Even the teachings of the Buddha are still something that I have to think about, that come from the past, that I have to present to you in the future, and so forth and so on. And you have to learn this. But you're looking for the deeper understanding of the Buddhist way, then I need to bring your mind back into, like you said, that immediate moment from you listening to the 6 blows. You need to bring the individual back to that place. So that's what Joshu's exhibiting to the monk in that passage.
Yeah.
And so those are the ones that are sort of clarifying with words, like what it is, you know.
From giving words,
yeah.
you should get it.
You should
right?
get it.
Yeah.
So they're more descriptive, right?
Yeah.
That koan is more descriptive. It has it has a beginning and it has an end, as opposed to, you know, what is the Buddha, 3 pounds of flax? It's psychobabble if you don't understand Zen philosophy and Buddhist philosophy in general. You
kind of almost need to look through the to look through the words.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
What's between the words?
Yeah.
If from that you get the teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the other ones, it's another famous one. A monk asked Joshu, "What is Joshu?" Joshu answered, "East gate, west gate, south gate, north gate." So, again, what does that mean? East gate, west gate, south gate, north gate. He's all these gates. Well, no, the moral of the story is Joshu's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, essentially, there is no Joshu.
Yeah.
The essence of Joshu is everywhere. So, he's clarifying with words what the nature of our Buddha nature is. It's not a localized awareness. It's everywhere. That's the nature of that koan.
Again, Joshu is just the name.
Just a name.
Someone's name.
Just someone's name. Yeah.
It doesn't have any actual meaning
No.
or nothing.
No.
It's just a word.
Just a word. Really, what Joshu is East gate, west gate, south gate, north gate. That's what it is. The essence of all of us is everywhere, but we associate with the localized awareness. And see, do you see the monk is at a perspective of the localized awareness. He wants to know who the person is, who Joshu is. And Joshu knows that there is no Joshu. It's a name that I've been given, but I am beyond name and form, essentially, my essential nature.
Right.
You know.
The question is so like
Yeah.
out of it question.
Yeah. So again, that's there's many ones that clarify with words, but those two are very simple for people to understand, you know. And so usually on the path, this is where we come to the koans that are difficult to pass. So the thing is with the koans that are difficult to pass is that sometimes they're used in two ways. They're used for someone who's a real hard nut. They can't break their intellectualizing and conceptualizing. They're used, and the reason why they're called difficult to pass is not because they're difficult to pass, like as in an exam, like you pass the koan. The koans themselves are difficult. Like think of a peak of a mountain. They're difficult to get over. So all of your theorizing and conceptualizing is gone. So these are more intense koans to get you out of it. They're used for the hard nuts, like the lay person who can't quite get the Dharma body koans or the devices or the clarifying with words. But they're also used for people who are far developed on the path too. Because essentially it keeps you in reading these koans keeps you in the essential world.
Yeah, when I heard a difficult koan, I thought literally difficult koan to pass or something
difficult
like
to
that.
pass, yeah,
but
of course, yeah.
it's more so for people who have such very intellectual mind.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, the koan is supposed to work on our inside, right? So the difficulty in this sense is within us. The difficulties reside within us.
To overcome it is difficult.
To overcome it is difficult. You see, that's why they call the koans are difficult to pass, because the difficulty lies within us, because some people have developed or have been conditioned to be super rational and overthink about everything and intellectualize. And that's not their fault. That may have been their upbringing and so forth and so on. But from the Eastern perspective, we all have, we are all Buddha nature. Deep down, we're all the Atman, we're all the self. And we need to get back to that place eventually, because that's where we're going to go anyway when the body falls away.
Yeah.
And so these ones that are difficult to pass are designed for those who just have had more so, and that would likely be most people.
Yeah, that is true.
in the modern world, right?
Yeah.
Because we live in this super rational reality where we think that since post-Enlightenment Europe, where rationality became the big thing, that we think that this is the best way for us to live. And obviously, with the way the world is now, we need to reevaluate that, and we need to look at alternatives and different cognitive approaches which Eastern spirituality and philosophy facilitate.
Yeah.
And so let's have a look at some of these ones that are difficult to pass. So, where is it? So the first one. The wind blows in the azure sky, and the floating clouds disappear. The moon rises over the blue mountain, a single bright jewel. So yeah, exactly. Your initial response should be, what the hell? Yeah, what the hell? All right, second one. The rain lifts, the clouds converge. The dawning is midway. Like myriad delineated peaks lie the emerald crags. So, again, a koan can be easy for one person, but it can be difficult for another. That's what we need to remember. And so when we talk about difficult to pass, as I mentioned, the difficulty of the koan lies within the student or the practitioner, not essentially in the koan. You see?
Yes, it's subjective.
It's
it
definitely
can be easy for some people, and
exactly. That's why, like I said, the difficult to pass ones are usually for two particular people: a beginner who's a hard nut to crack, and a very advanced practitioner. But they're used differently. And when we say understand, we're not talking about, again, logical understanding. The understanding means that it puts you into the essential world. That's the understanding. So in a sense, you're seeing the aestheticness of the koan and the beauty of the koan when it puts you into that realm, that field. And so, like I said, the first one, the wind blows in the azure sky, and the floating clouds disappear. The moon rises over the blue mountain, a single bright jewel. So it's almost like, in a sense, like poetry.
yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, that's right.
It's almost like poetry, but the thing is that the reason why, in a sense, it makes, in some sense, doesn't make any sense at all, is because they're supposed to be so difficult. You see, that's why they're difficult to pass. Remember, I said it's like we need to think like a mountain peak, like you're trekking up to Everest and you're out of oxygen. But the out of oxygen here is that the conceptual thinking and intellectualizing, you're out of breath, because when you read that, you're like,
huh?
This look that I have now, like where you sit there and you're vacant, that's actually what that is supposed to evoke. It's supposed to evoke an emptiness out of you, because there's not really an answer to this koan. Not that there's an answer to any of the ones that we've read so far.
I think for this one, why it's difficult is that you wouldn't know how to respond to this.
No.
That itself is already like, that's why.
That's why it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because there's no. The other
it's
ones,
not a question. It's not like
No.
it's not demanding anything. Like,
no, it's just like poetry.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really that you can answer. Like, what can you answer? Floating clouds disappear? Of course they disappear. I mean, like, you can only make statements about it.
Right.
But, like, if you're sitting there and trying to rationalize and intellectualize this, you can't come up with an answer. Whereas if you look at some of the ones we read before, you know, the 3 pounds of flax one, okay, maybe he was measuring something at the time, and you can come up with some sort of logical conclusion that you think will appease yourself. But here you can't come up with anything, because the moon rises over the blue mountain, a single bright jewel. So in some sense, what you can get from these ones that are difficult to pass is the emptiness of the nature in this koan. Do you see? The moon rises over a blue mountain, a single bright jewel. The imagery evokes an emptiness. When you think about the moon over the mountain, there's, you know, when you see that in nature, it evokes an empty, not an empty feeling in a negative way, but an emptiness within your mind, because you're kind of come into harmony with
the clarity.
The clarity, yeah. And same, when the wind blows in azure sky, the floating clouds disappear. So the sky is completely, really completely empty and pure. It's just, the clouds are are obstructing that reality. You see? So these koans themselves are subtly speaking about like a absolute reality, but through poetry and through nature.
It almost like wants you to feel again.
Yeah.
It allows you to feel the way of nature again.
Yes.
I think that's the intention behind these difficult ones, difficult koans.
Well, you know the famous one with Tozan, which is when I didn't know the mountain was the river and the river was the mountain, and when I did know, the mountain became the mountain again and the river became the mountain again. The river became the river again. It's like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah, that's right.
But these are the difficult to pass ones. See, like, so first of all, everything was upside down when he thought about it in a certain way. When he thought about reality in a certain way, the mountain was the river, and when he was conceptualizing, because he couldn't make sense of reality. But when he became enlightened, everything was just as it is. And these difficult to pass ones are trying to tell you on a very subtle level the way things are, and in a way that, well, it's obviously difficult to pass, but like, because there's no real understanding. I mean, we could unpack this any which way you want, and we could both come up with different conclusions, but there's no conclusion to this, really. No. It's almost like a verification of the essential world. These difficult to pass ones. It's a verification of the essential world. For an advanced practitioner, that's what they see. It's a verification of the essential world. So when they hear it, they themselves are already dwelling in that essential reality. So when they hear it, it's kind of, I don't know if you want to say a reminder. It's just like, if you're a fan of Bach, it's like listening to Bach. It's like listening to a beautiful piece of music. That's what it's like for the advanced practitioner. But for the ones that difficult to pass on the inside, for the beginner, it's a completely different thing. It's a thing to get you back so you can hear the music.
That's right.
You know, because most people can't hear the music in this koan because it's too difficult. You know.
Yeah, one who have realized this koan will get you in that state of mind. It's kind of a reminder, reflection, bit of that. Yeah. And for the one who hasn't realized it, it'll be like it'll allow you to have that experience. Yeah.
Well, it's like coming across Bach for the first time. You listen to Bach for the first time, you don't hear what the experienced ear hears in the music. You see?
First time when you hear a piece of music, you don't really hearing it.
No. You know it sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds good.
It's pleasant.
Yes.
You can listen to this koan and you go, I like it. It sounds interesting.
Sounds good, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Not that I can make sense of it.
Right.
But the advanced one can make sense of it. The advanced person can really hear what Bach is playing and what the emotions and the feelings that are driving it. The difference here is the emotion and feeling, we could say, is replaced with the essential world that is within this koan.
Yep.
Can you feel the essential world in the koan? What are you talking about? Your ear's not attuned.
Yeah.
And so you need to let this koan do the work, what it's supposed to do. Because obviously you can't hear the music of the other koans, so we're going to give you this one. See how you go with it. And then what happens? When the student takes this back to their hut, they end up being the most vacant in their mind that they've ever been. Because when you constantly read this koan, you know that there's not a logical conclusion. And then what happens in that process? You start to actually get it.
Yeah.
You know, not that there's a get it in a logical way. Get it in the sense that you can feel the beauty in it.
Yeah. It just suggest you to clear up your mind, right?
Yeah.
And just allow yourself to purely feel what it says.
Yeah. Well, like if a master was running a monastery and then some new students came in that day, and he said, where did they come from? Well, one's a entrepreneur and has tons of businesses and this and that. He goes in the difficult to pass category. Straight up, because that's going to be a tough nut to crack, because he's spent his, or she has spent his whole life intellectualizing, theorizing, worrying, and this and that, and caught in a dualistic reality that doesn't really exist. It only exists in the mind of the person.
That's right.
There's many universes going on within all of us, right? And we all experience reality differently. But especially people like that, they experience reality like a certain way, and it's usually a stressful and an anxious reality.
Yeah, I think this difficult koan is for everyone, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, for all of us.
Because we all live in quite busy life, and just every day is just be full of things that you need to do, and your mind is always rushing and thinking, and it's never have that spacious place within yourself.
No. So in talking about all of the koans today that we've talked about, if we look at the famous Heart Sutra, right, where it explains form is emptiness and emptiness is form. Again, that in itself is a koan, right? That's like one of the great sayings.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's a koan in itself. And it's alluding to the essence of reality itself. What we spoke about before, between the two sides of reality, the phenomenal or the actual world, like that people experience in the duality in the field of the senses, and the essential world, that non-dual reality which we all come from and we all go back to, and is immanent within all life. But it's only there for those who have cleansed their mind to see.
Again, like when we look at the space, the universe, it's a lot of us will think that it's a whole lot of empty space out there, right? But many philosophers in the past, and also actually many scholars who studied Neo-Confucianism would say it's just full of space. Full of things in that space.
Full of energy.
Full of energy, yes. It's not just empty. They see through that empty space, meaning they understood what that empty space is so important to give birth to manifestation, right?
Yes.
And they were able to see it that way, and they had that level of perspective. I think that's the big difference. Many people will see the world as it is, as just a dense, solid, what this is table, this is cup, like just very simple, conceptual way of interpreting things, right? But then there's people who can see through things. This is not just the table, not just the dense world. It's a perspective thing. Yeah,
it's a perceptual thing, right?
Yes, that's right.
According to each and every individual, those who really understand and those who don't. Like you mentioned, space, it's similar to it's the same actually, to the Taoist mentality of, what's more valuable, the space, the cup itself, or the space within the cup. And so you're flipping the concept of reality on its head, because we think only in sense of the duality, the world of forms, the phenomenal. But what about space itself? What about including the reality that actually holds the world together? Even the space between you and I, the space between all of us, that actually holds us together like glue. And I know that may sound a bit weird, but that's, like you said, from a Neo-Confucian perspective, like if you look out at the universe, they tell you to contemplate on not the stars, but the space within the stars, because that itself is full of energy holding the universe together.
Yeah.
And so to get to the essential reality, you need to realize that as well, you know.
Again, just the last phrase of the very first chapter of Tao Te Ching.
Yes, yes.
Darkness within the darkness, the manifestation of all things, right?
Yeah, the gate to all mystery.
Gate to all mystery, yes, that's right. So that's exactly the same interpretation, form and emptiness.
And in talking about the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching, it describes the mentality that you were talking about. Ever desiring, one only sees the manifestation. Ever desireless, one sees the Tao, one sees the origin of all life. You see? So when your mind, in a sense, is transfixed on a reality of form and of concepts of what you can get out of reality, a sense of I, then you can only see the manifest world. And you only operate within the manifest world. And you don't even know about the other world.
Yeah.
You see?
That's not even in your scope at all.
You didn't know about it.
Yeah.
It's not a concept of knowledge.
Not at all.
It's not a reality, not an experience.
Yeah.
And so what these koans are supposed to do is bring those people back into resonance with that essential world. So then they don't just see the manifest. And they're not ever desiring. They're ever desireless, as it says in the Tao Te Ching, you know. The desireless sees the Tao, sees the origin of the 10,000 things.
Yeah.
The mother of the 10,000 things. And so that's what these koans are trying to do, and that's what the Heart Sutra is alluding to, right? Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. It's an essential reality that from the enlightened perspective, there's not a separation. See, that's a statement from an enlightened perspective, that there's form is emptiness, emptiness is form, samsara is nirvana, nirvana is samsara. But those not as advanced on the path as an enlightened practitioner, they need to, in a sense, have a perspective of two sides of reality. So there is the phenomenal world, there is the essential world, because there is, but at the same time, when your mind begins to transform and begins to come back into its nature, then you see the unmanifest within the manifest. You see the emptiness within the form.
Yeah, right. You need to allow yourself to choose to see things in two different...
At a stage, at a level of
yes,
development.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So you also see the world with the form and whatnot, but you also need to choose to see the other way around, which gives you completely different perspective.
Of course,
on things.
You need that distinction, because the distinction does exist, but from an enlightened perspective, the reality is one. There's not a separation. But are you and I or anyone listening at that stage? Of course not. So we have to continue to understand that there are two sides of the coin, but the coin is one coin. You know.
In the end, ultimately, again, like in the path of Zen practice or whatever Eastern spiritual practice, you need to be able to sit in that middle way, isn't it? That is the ultimate place, and that is the enlightened place to be, right? And in everything is perfect in balance, the way you perceive the world, and you can actually move through either way, right?
Yes, of course,
At times, but you don't get cling to either side.
Yes.
But you firmly stand on that middle way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's the Latin scholastic word, one of my favorite words, a of eternal. So the individual that sits on the cusp of the middle way, basically, of eternity and time.
Right.
So what we're talking about there is we're talking about the essential world and the
phenomenal
world of form, the world of emptiness. So that individual that sits on the cusp, so right in the middle. So they live in both worlds, and in some sense the worlds are not different.
And again, like you mentioned before, at the beginning of the podcast, that you acknowledge there are two sides of reality, but in the end, all of that is one, and that itself is essential world.
Yes.
That's a pure non-dual perspective, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, there is phenomenal world and there is essential world, but ultimately it's one thing. It's non-dual.
Yeah. And the real nature of the world is the essential world.
Yeah.
You know, so we have the phenomenal world, and we can say that they both exist as one, but the real nature of the whole world is the essential world.
Yeah. Just like I think there is emptiness before all things, before the form.
Yeah.
There's only emptiness.
1 begot 2, 2 begot 3, 3 begot the 10,000 things.
Yes, that's right.
And so the problem in our world is the average person doesn't know about the essential world. Even, you know, let's speak truthfully here, even religious people don't know the essential world, because it can't be known essentially through devotion and this and that. It can only be known through deep contemplative practice and meditation and so forth and so on.
Very experiential, I think.
Very experiential. And if the average person, for example, if they came in contact with that essential world, we wouldn't have any conflict in the world. It wouldn't exist, because there would be no reason for any artificial separation, no causes. You wouldn't have a cause or an agenda to impose on reality, because all causes and agendas have caused all the trouble in the world. You know, no matter whether you are reacting to a certain cause or you are causing the cause, it doesn't matter. They both spawn from the same incorrect perspective. So if you understand the essential world, there's no reason to act that way. But that requires us to get the whole world meditating, the whole world contemplating koans. and I don't think many people would be interested in this in general. Maybe the audience had watched our podcast. But if you're really focused on spiritual development and actually the peace of the world, then you need to turn to this sort of contemplation. Because you're becoming in itself a contemplative scientist. You are dwelling in the lab of your own being.
Well, you cannot expect the world to be peaceful without you practicing peace,
100%,
right?
yeah.
So that's kind of, it's just a no-brainer.
No-brainer,
It's just something we need to put in action to create the change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit, again, that's all commitment with ourselves, I think.
Yes.
Not with anyone else, but just with ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the spiritual development we need to get to with koans, we need to practice koans, for everyone listening and you and I as well, we need to practice koans in tandem with sitting meditation. And this is one of the points of Zen. For us to get to that level that we were just talking about, we need to practice both of those to get to that level of abiding in the essential world, you know, living from that place and seeing the world differently, actually. You see the world in a different manner, because you see the world more, you know, as I would say in Vedanta, you're seeing the world as Brahman. You don't see it anymore as Maya, as this dualistic reality that evokes emotional response out of you, that confuses your mind into thinking that there's this different agendas and different beliefs and so forth and so on. This differentiation begins to disappear. This partiality begins to disappear, and you come back into that impartial reality.
Yeah. From doing sitting meditation, I think we can challenge a lot of things within ourselves, meaning that, like, when for example, we are drinking tea, right? And we taste the tea, and we feel the taste of the tea through our own mind. But when we try to feel anything like that, we tend to go through a bit of a so-called filter. Filter meaning like the eye. I feel it this way, I feel it that way, like tasty or not, or it's too sweet or not too sweet, or this kind of thing. Whereas you can simply see it like, this tea is delicious or sweet. Just simply just state things as they are.
Yes.
Like, for example, there is music, you can listen to music. I can listen to music. Whereas you can just say, there is music playing.
There is music playing, yeah.
So it's a slight different, very subtle different, but you just come to the pure reality to see it without going through the filter of who is the one that experiencing it. Just instead of doing that, you just allow yourself to see things. The sky is blue, or
pure experiencing.
Pure, right? Yeah. Just state things as they are.
Yeah.
You know, and that'll I think help us to see the immediate reality as they are, without interference with our own interpretation.
And you know what resides in that place? No stress, no anxiety, just a sense of awe and beauty for the world. A lot of people think that with what you said, a lot of people think that, oh yeah, but that reality is boring. And it's like, it's not boring. First of all, you have never experienced that reality. So it's a misnomer to say that it's boring, you know. So experience it, come back and see and explain what did you have stress? Did you have anxiety? Did you have depression? It doesn't exist, because you actually begin to see the world as it is. You can appreciate the beautiful blue sky, the cry of a baby, the sunset. You can appreciate all of these simple things in life.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and the problem with especially our modern world, is that, like you said, like we can just listen to music, right? And music is playing. But we live in a reality.
We judge the music, right?
Judge the music, but we have music on, and we got Facebook on, we got Twitter on, we got Instagram on, and we're doing 1,000 things at once.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing 1,000 things at once, where is your mind? What part of that is it focused on, concentrate on? It's not, it's scattered. The mind is scattered.
Or fragmented.
It's fragmented.
Right?
And so what happens with the fragmented mind? It leads to stress and anxiety. Yep. Because the point of the mind itself, its function is to concentrate. Is to focus on one thing.
That's right. Like, that's why when we do sitting meditation, the first thing we automatically should do is what? The awareness of respiration.
Yes, yes.
Breathing, you watch your breath. But there's two ways to do. I mean, like, ultimately there's only one way to do this. But what we usually do is that you try to control your breath. That is you. There is you trying to control it, whereas you should be able to just watch the movement of breath as it's happening. I think that's two completely different places, I think.
Two different realities, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. You are trying to... you think you are watching the breath, but actually you are controlling it. Oh, this is exhale, this is inhale. Like this, you know. But I've done that. We've all done that.
Yeah, of course.
At the beginning.
It's hard not to do that.
And it's difficult to get into the deep observation, pure observing. So at the beginning, we do that, but then ultimately we should be able to just purely watch the breath as it go in and out and in and out. And some thoughts will arise, and you should be able to just purely watch it. Once we engage to that thought, then we try to control the thoughts, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be thinking this. I shouldn't be thinking. This is you're already gone. You're already fully trapped back in, right?
Yeah, of course.
Whereas you should just watch, that's interesting. This came up today.
Yeah.
But it'll just pass. You just let it go.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I think it's not easy to get to straight away, but that's eventually where we want to be.
That's even the most advanced meditation practitioner. They still have the wandering mind. They still have that sense of, like you said, when we begin meditation and we focus on being aware of the breath, there still is a tendency to control. But the difference between, say, the beginner and the advanced practitioner is, for them it's easy to overcome, and the habit falls away very easily, as opposed to the beginner, where the wandering mind will keep coming back in, and their habit to control a situation will come back in instead of just being aware. And we know that from practicing a long time too, is that you still have those habits. The wandering mind doesn't disappear. The wandering mind is a kind of a constant, but because your awareness is focused more on the immediacy of reality, naturally too, not forcing the focus of the immediacy, is that the wandering mind might pop up, but because it doesn't have anything to cling to, because your mind's not focusing on the wandering mind, it falls away. And that happens also with the control, right? You may begin to try to control the breath, but your sense of awareness on that sense of control allows it to drop away.
Yeah.
Even people who practice pranayama go through this, and pranayama is a forceful way of breath work, but they even experience this as well. You know, where there's a kind of a falling away of the focus, and the body is just in this natural flux of, say, if we're doing kapalabhati pranayama, like the breath of fire, it's almost, you could say it's still forceful, but there's not an identification with control, which sounds very strange.
Yeah.
But that's, again, that's from a heightened perspective of the practice, as opposed to a beginner. And so, as you're alluding to, like, we need to get beyond those controlling habits to come back into that field of reality.
And from being able to do that, we can see that world as a emptiness with the space, the form within the space.
Yes.
We will be able to see that space.
Yes.
Without forcing or control.
Yeah. Well, that's why, again, like, why in the yogic traditions and also the Shramana traditions in India, where the individual would just walk and not be associated with any culture and society and this and that, as part of it is to do with not having any sort of fuel in the fire to allow their mind to, you know, be brought into, like, dramas and emotions and the wandering. You know, the subconscious is an amazing thing, right? The subconscious will just burp up anything. It'll burp up something you experienced when you were 6, and you're like, why am I thinking about that? Like 6, like, Jesus Christ, I'm 40 now. There's long time ago. I don't need to be dwelling on that. You know, so they themselves will dissociate from society and the world in general to enhance that practice that you're talking about. And essentially that's what Buddhists are doing too, right? So we're talking specifically about Zen Buddhism today. That's what they do by planting themselves in a monastery, is to dissociate with society, to overcome those controlling tendencies and the wandering mind, because they inhibit our spiritual development.
Definitely.
And they both, in some sense, inhibit our understanding of koans too. Because when you get a koan, you're trying to control an answer, or you're trying to come up with an answer, or you let your imagination run wild with the koan, and of course you come to no conclusion, because there isn't a conclusion to it, you know.
Yeah, it's just completely the opposite.
Yes.
We should be, get out of that mindset.
Yes. So the point of everything we talked about today was, like, as I mentioned, when we practice koans and we practice just sitting, so when we practice zazen or just sitting meditation in general, is you're trying to get out of that habit. Trying to get out of that habit of intellectualizing, of controlling, of the wandering mind. And so you apply these practices to your life. And it comes back to the great Zen master Dogen Zenji. When Dogen Zenji's, when he met his last master, he asked his last master, like, what's kind of, like, I've been studying and practicing sitting meditation for a long time, read koans and so forth and so on. what's the point of all this? And he's like, the falling away of the body-mind. The falling away of the body-mind. So, the dropping away of that. And that's like a level, obviously an enlightened, heightened level. So when you're in meditation, are you experiencing the falling away of the body-mind?
Falling away.
So the dropping away, like you're not, the no identification with it, it's gone. It's gone, because it's not really who you are. This is a suit you're wearing, it's carrying the consciousness, the awareness. So in meditation, are you experiencing the falling away? And see, what the koan does is it allows you to, the body and mind fall away. Well, it fell away for you in that the koan on devices before, So the falling away, the complete dropping away, the lack of identification, where you come back to just this, like you said, that pure experiencing, that pure awareness, because that's all you really are.
You forget about your body. You forget about
it's gone.
Anything.
Yeah, mind's gone, body's gone. Nothing's there. You're back in that place. And the point is to get comfortable with that essential world. Because if you're not comfortable with that, then, the universe is that. And you're trying to hold on to the 10,000 things.
Yeah.
And the best of us can only live for 100 years, and you're trying to cling on to the 10,000 things.
It's too stressful.
Yeah, too stressful. And the universe has been around a lot longer than the brief 100 years that you're going to live. So where would you rather cling to? The reality you came from and that you will return to? Or this brief intermediary world?
And claim your rights.
Claim your right.
Ownership.
Yeah. Plant your flag.
Yeah.
This is my legacy.
Yeah.
It's like your legacy should be to have no legacy, to leave no legend. It should just to be ordinary and to experience the falling away of the body-mind, as Dogen experienced.
Yeah, really good. Because, in a deep meditation, when we were in a forest monastery in Thailand and place like that, you do get to experience that just pure awareness in a just dark place, but it's good place, Yeah. There's that just a pure observing, pure awareness.
Yeah. You remember that film Yogasanas?
Yep.
On YouTube.
The Indian film.
Really nice independent film.
Movie,
Yeah, about 40 minutes long. And at the end, spoiler alert, at the end, the yogic fella mentions to the guy who was kind of wound up in, fame and not fame, but like fortune and the 10,000 things. And he was always afraid of the dark, this guy, right? And then he brings him into the cave. And then he's like, I'm scared of the dark. And when he's in there and this and that, and he's like, just, get comfortable. This is the ultimate truth. This darkness within darkness. All there is the breath. Just breathe. Get comfortable with this reality. And a lot of people will think, well, that's pretty grim. And it's not grim at all, because you haven't experienced it. You're speaking from the level of the phenomenal world when you say it's grim and depressing.
Yeah, but once you experience, that place has no fear.
Nothing.
No form, no concept. There's no you.
No you, yeah. What a relief.
That's what I mean. Oh, yeah.
What a relief.
It's a good place.
It's a good place to be.
Place to be, yes.
Yeah, it is a... Well, it's not just a good place to be, it's...
That's the only place.
That's the only place, really.
That's where we came from, and that's where we all go back to, right? Get used to it.
Get used to it, yeah. And that's what Eastern spirituality is about getting used to it, about coming back to that essential reality, coming back to that world, and not raging against the dying of the light, as they would say in, in Interstellar. Michael Caine was like, rage against the dying of the light. It's like, and it's like, no, don't rage against it. Embrace it and move into it. But first get comfortable with it while you're alive. Get comfortable with the idea of the falling away of the body and the mind. Because actually, that's all there is. So in deep meditation, when you go to the depth of meditation, that's what you experience, the falling away of the body and the mind. And koans in tandem with just sitting are supposed to evoke that. I would recommend everyone listening, not just, for example, some schools, like say Rinzai, there's probably too much focus on just koans and not as much on sitting meditation. I think they need to go hand in hand more so, and because they complement each other.
Definitely,
you know.
Not just one or the other.
Yeah.
And again, I read that about the koan, that you pass the koan doesn't mean necessarily that you will be in that pure awareness state forever.
Forever, of course not.
And it's not like not anything like badge of honor at all.
No.
It's just like a reminder and reflection of your practice. But that's not just the end goal or something that you need to achieve at the end of the road.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like in Eastern spirituality, a lot of people think that when you are enlightened, you are forever like in bliss and this and that. But life goes on. You know, there's the old phrase, before enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water. After enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if we use Japanese terminology, when you experience Satori, the thing is after experiencing Satori, you still come back to your senses, but you've recognized the essential world, you've recognized the reality, and you have more of an affinity with that as opposed to the phenomenal world. And the reason why you continue to practice koans and sitting meditation, not just a reminder, but about bringing your mind back into that reality, to abide more in that, more so than not. It's the same with moksha in Hinduism. That's the same thing. The reason why people continue to practice meditation and that one after they've experienced moksha is the same reason. Because life still does go on. Yeah. The guru still teaches, and the guru still has to eat and still has to take a crap and still has to deal with people's problems phenomenally, but their perspective of the world is from the Atman. And that's where we want to get to that's where we all want to get to, is that's where our reality is lived from.
Definitely. And I think also the mind is such a fragile thing. It can easily slip back into that phenomenal world.
Yeah.
So that we need to, that's why all these even great masters keep practicing for entire their life, right?
Of course. Of course. Because like what Shunryu Suzuki said, you practice because that's what Buddhas do. Because he was asked by some people in San Francisco back in the 60s or 70s, what do you keep practicing meditation for? Haven't you experienced Satori? And he's like, no, but of course I've experienced Satori, but this is what Buddhas do. Just like, someone, a grass cutter cuts grass. Like a guy who cuts grass, he mows lawns, Same. Buddhas meditate. They dwell on koans. That's what happens.
It's no longer a thing that you need to do.
No.
It's just like we brush our teeth, the same thing.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just life.
Just like you're part of just what you do.
It's not even a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
It's just what you do.
It's what you do.
Like you said, brush your teeth, you have breakfast.
You're hungry, you eat.
And meditation becomes part of that.
Yeah.
It's nutrition for the Buddha nature.
Yeah.
Just as you have food to give nutrition to the body, meditation is giving nutrition to the Buddha nature. It's enhancing your ability to reside in that place.
Absolutely.
As opposed to just saying that I've been enlightened, but then you're still dwelling in politics and all of these things that are in the phenomenal world. That's how you can test someone's actual spiritual development. And I see that a lot online, where a lot of people will converse with me about how they are advanced and so forth and so on, and then you see their behavior and they're angry about certain politicians or certain things that are happening in society, and that's a dead giveaway that they're not anything that they're mentioning. They're not at any certain level. You shouldn't have an attraction for those phenomenal things.
Yeah, that's kind of interest should just slowly fade away.
Fade
right?
away, yeah. Well, if you're getting to the stage of the falling away of the body and the mind, there is
There's no such
there's no
concept
such
of
politics or anything. Yeah, none of that exists.
whatsoever.
Yeah. We're talking about body and mind here,
Yeah.
not about something that you've experienced
Yeah.
out here.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so
It's just something that continuously we do it just to make a habit of it and make it part of your life.
yes,
And yeah, just like sleep, just like anything that you do in life. Yeah.
definitely. And we need just a lot of people to come back to that reality. The recognition of the essential world will heal everything in the phenomenal world.
100%.
100%. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
But that doesn't mean like just intellectualizing that there is a phenomenal, that there is an essential world. It has to be an actual, it has to be a reality for yourself.
Yes.
I don't even want to say experience because it's beyond experiencing.
Experience.
It's beyond experience.
Because there's only that, right?
There's only that. Yeah. Experience is something that you experience.
Experience, yeah.
This is beyond all experiencing. It's like the Turiya,
Yep.
the fourth state of consciousness in Vedanta. Beyond all experiencing.
Yes. Recognition of that.
Yep.
And you should abide by that.
Should abide in that.
Abide in that place.
Yeah. Or abide as that.
As that, yes.
'Cause-
As that, it's a better way to say.
Because you are that.
Yep.
We all are that. And the problems in the world arise when we believe we are the identity. And then our limited perspective of reality, which is the identity and its beliefs and so forth and so on, creates conflict.
Yep.
That just has to happen. People ask, why is there conflict? That's the reason. And if you don't want to realize that, or you want to uphold labels and beliefs and so forth and so on, that's okay, but you have to admit that you are part of the problem. And if you're not mature enough to recognize that you're part of the problem, then that's even worse. That makes the problem even worse.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes it fester within yourself even worse, because you're not just looking at yourself.
Just going around the circles.
Going around in circles, yeah. So yeah, that's the essence, yeah. The essence of koans and well, sitting practice as well. But the essence of koans is to come back to that essential world, to realize that all koans arise from that essential world, and they go back to that essential world. They actually take you back to the essential world.
That's right.
And so,
it's a great, can I say, tool.
yes,
One of the spiritual practical tool.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
That we all can delve into.
We can delve into it.
Yes. Yeah.
And we should, and I hope everyone listening and watching actually think about some of the koans that, think about,
Yeah.
contemplate the koans
Contemplate, yes.
that we read today. And maybe if you are a tough nut, then you need to contemplate the difficult to pass ones.
Yeah.
Or if you enjoy all of them, then, definitely contemplate all of them. And just get comfortable with that reality, because that is the reality.
Yep.
This reality looks all fine and dandy, and our attachments and our desires and that seem appealing, seemingly.
It's it's a temptation.
Temptation,
right?
yeah.
Temptation,
Yeah.
full of temptation. But again, that's just an illusion.
Yes.
It only creates the illusionary mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
The belief in duality.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, belief and duality.
Yeah.
Yes.
The belief that there's this and that.
Yeah. And we don't want to fall back into that.
Nor enhance that.
No.
So Zen Koans and meditation is like a remedy or a cure to get you out of that hypnosis.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Break out of that hypnosis.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, contemplate some of those koans. And I hope you enjoyed everything we spoke about today. And we'll see you guys next time.